participation is one of the strongest components of the whole IDEA process. Parents are supposed to be equal members of the team. Their input is supposed to be considered meaningfully, not just paid lip service to. And if parental participation at an IEP meeting is denied, that's a denial of faith, usually. So, it's not going to be something where somebody comes into the meeting with a roll of duct tape and puts duct tape on your mouth. But it is going to be something like, you can't inquire about the teacher's qualifications, or we don't have a person here that can address that issue, but we'll send you a letter about it later. All those things prevent the parent from getting the information they need to meaningfully participate in the IEP. So parental participation is a huge issue. And the other, I think, sub-issue related to that is if you bring people into the meeting, or you bring written reports into the meeting that deal with your kiddos' needs, the district has to give real consideration to those. And a lot of the time, I think you probably have experienced, at least some of you, you bring in somebody, she gives a presentation. I mean, I remember once I brought in this woman that had a neat computer program for teaching vocabulary called Rosetta Stone. And she spoke for about 15 minutes to the school district about how she was using this to promote vocabulary in a nonverbal, or a very reasonably limited in his verbal capabilities, autistic teenager. And they sat there like, lumps on a log. And at the end, I said, "Any questions?" And they said, "Nope." So it was obvious to me that, they felt that I had wasted 15 minutes of their time, and they had no interest in considering this. Well, that's a little hard to attack usually after the fact. They'll say, "What do you mean? We considered it, blah, blah, blah." But there is something called prior written notice in IDEA. Districts fail to observe it a lot of the time. If you ask the district to do something or to not do something at an IEP meeting, they have to communicate with you in writing and tell you what it was you asked them to do or not do, and why or why not they're agreeing to do it. So I've got a due process hearing request right here that I'm drafting because I have to file it tomorrow. And one of the prior written notice issues is parents asked the district to provide more goals at the IEP in certain goal areas. The district refused, said it wasn't necessary and that the parents needed to choose between goal areas. After the IEP, the parents did not get prior written notice. So that becomes another violation of parental participation, essentially. And the fact that they didn't get prior written notice is going to be another problem. So anyway.
But hang on for a second, because you opened a big can of worms for me that I want to ask you a quick question about. So yes, well, no, because it's like, ooh, this is so exciting to me, Bonnie. Because I've always been told that I am not able to ask about what the experience of the teacher is. And did I hear you say that that's a violation of my right to participate?
It is, because notwithstanding the fact that they will cite that their union says that they can't do it, you are allowed to ask questions about the teacher and or the behavioral aids experience. Another thing they do, because they're uncomfortable and they don't want their people, quote unquote, deposed, they're insecure about their own competency in a lot of situations. Sometimes the attorney will say, "I'll get you that information after the meeting," and your response has to be, "No, the time to give me this information is now at the IEP meeting with the people here, because I can't, if you send me something after the fact that says Gretchen took 3 semesters of crocheting or something like that, Gretchen is no longer present. I can't inquire and determine whether or not having her be my son's whatever is appropriate or not." So yeah.
Wow, that's big stuff, Bonnie.
Well, they don't like it. They'll try really hard to shut you down. You have to really get in their face and insist that it's a denial of parental participation.
And I would imagine you need to have your tape recorder on when you say that, to say, "I want to state for the record that that is a denial of my rights of participation as a parent."
You always need to have your audio recorder on when you meet with these people. you always need to be prepared for the fact that somebody may say something that's golden, and if you don't get it recorded, it's going to be as if it never happened. That's also why we tell you to send email all the time. Don't make phone calls. Same issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, this is how you and I got started, and how I met you is that, that's the advice that you gave, and more than once, people always ask me, why have I been so successful at getting good services for my son in a district where I had to fight? And
Because I'm Shannon Penrod.
well, it's because I had good advice from Bonnie Yates, and because one of the things that you said was run the tape recorder, and people said things, and that was to my benefit.
That's really the best situation.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you audio record, people kind of straighten up, and they try to cover their tracks more, but you just never know when you're going to get something good, and ooh, does it burn if you get something good and there's no recorder running.
Yeah.
Well, I could do a whole 5-minute comedy spoof on problems I've had with recording devices over the years, but it would just make me cry. So we're not going to do that.
But I also want to say too that you brought up that a lot of times people straighten up and things are a little bit more civil, and I think that's a good reason to have the tape recorder also. When parents call me and say, "Well, I was there at the IEP and they said this to me," and it's something that you just go, "I cannot believe that a person said that to a person, let alone an educator to a parent of a child who has a diagnosis of a disability." It's just shocking. And my next question always is, and I know the answer, did you get that on tape? And they say, no, I didn't bring in the tape recorder because I didn't want to feel like I was being contentious.
Well, that's exactly what they do say. Now, I mean, when I said they straighten up and fly right, what I really meant is more like they lawyer up.
Yeah.
They become much more careful about what they say, but sometimes they're so ill-educated in the process that they still put their foot in their mouths. And when they say those off recording type of things when there's no record of it, I mean, it does really let you know how they think.
Yeah.